How's it, everybody? Phil from Cabrinha here. Pretty pumped today because we got brand new 2019 toys to play with. This is the all new crossbreed foil board. This one is the 5-1 with the tracks in the bottom. And I also have the brand new lift wing set, which we're going to throw on here. Pretty excited about that. Figure while I'm setting it up, I might as well just walk you guys through it, show you how quick and easy it is. So without further ado, let's get this bad boy mounted up so we can go get our foil on. All right, so as with any high performance Cabrinha product, we always advise that you follow the instruction guide here and for the mounting, make your life a little bit easier. So what I'll do is check all the mounting hardware, and all the mounting hardware for the foil kit comes pre-labeled in these little baggies with the size of the screws and everything. It's pretty self-explanatory, but again, you just want to make sure they're all there. And then of course I got the mast, which comes pre-assembled with the foil top plate here, fuselage, which is right here, and then of course the wing set that I'll be using. This is the lift foil set. They come with these sick covers that you can use even when the foil is fully assembled. So it kind of helps prevent stuff from getting dinged up, so that's always nice. Nice little touch there. And then finally, just make sure you got the Allen key. It's the same Allen key for all the hardware, so it makes it super simple. And then the tube of grease, which you're going to use for mounting up all the hardware to just kind of help to prevent stuff from seizing up in there. All right, so let's get started. All right, so in order to get this mounted up into the tracks here, the first thing that I like to do is go ahead and prepare this, and that's to go ahead and identify first the leading edge and the trailing edge of the mast. It's pretty easy to tell. The front of the mast has a slightly thicker leading edge, and then it tapers to a thinner trailing edge. So obviously this is the front, this is the back, so it'll actually mount like this. So we're going to go ahead and mount 2 screws at a time, and the 2 that we're going to use for the crossbreed foil board is these countersunk holes here in the foil top plate. The threaded holes are for the double agent. So before we mount any hardware up, we just want to go ahead and use just a dab of this anti-seize grease in all the hardware that we're going to go ahead and mount up. And the reason for that is just to help keep everything from sticking and seizing up. Things like to corrode in salt water, so it's a good idea to go ahead and just make this easier so you can break the thing down. One little side note is I like to just dab the hardware that I'm actually mounting up and not everything, because otherwise it gets messy. But if you just put a dab on the pieces that you're actually doing as you're doing them, it's just a little cleaner and a little bit easier, okay? So with these brass nuts, I'm just gonna go ahead and add just a little dab here. I'll do that on both of them because I'm gonna do 2 at a time here. Okay, so once we've identified front and back on the mast, we're gonna go ahead and mount 2 screws. I'm gonna choose the front. You can choose the back if you want, it doesn't matter. So I'll just put 2 of these guys up front and just lightly start them. It's literally just like a couple of turns, just enough so they don't fall off. So with those 2 in the front, what I wanna do now is go ahead and drop 2 of these nuts into the rear and then unscrew them and leave them in there. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and drop it in, find the slot, slide them all the way back, and then unscrew the screw. Same thing for the other side, slide it all the way back, take that one off. All right, so with the track hardware ready to go now, we're gonna go ahead and put the mast on, okay? And I just wanna make sure I'm orienting everything correctly. So again, leading edge of the mast, trailing edge. So if this is the leading edge, it's the front pointing towards the nose of the board. We're gonna go ahead and orient these guys so they should drop right into the track here, okay? And then we wanna go obviously slide this forward. If you're having some resistance, you can try jiggling it, but really I find that the easiest way to do this is to just tilt the mast back a little bit and angle it up so the corners of the nuts don't catch in the track, and it usually slides much easier, okay? All the way to the front, just like that. And now I'm gonna go ahead and attach the rears. So for me, the easiest way to attach these guys is to take the Allen key and guide these little brass nuts back underneath the hole before dropping the screw in, okay? And I just want to see that they generally align with where I'm going to drop the screw right into the foil top plate. And then I'll go ahead and drop that screw right in. As long as it's pretty close, it should catch, and it just did. Same thing for the other side. Okay? And you don't want to tighten it all the way because we want to go ahead and adjust it first. So one of the really cool things we got going for this 2019 board is this guide system here for the foil and how it affects the trim. So if you like the board to feel a little bit less lifty, you'll go ahead and move this foil top plate down further back where it says nose down. And if you want the trim to feel a little bit more lifty, you'll go ahead and just go up here to where it says nose up, and that'll instantly make the foil come up easier with much less effort, and it will, as a result, require a little bit more front foot pressure. If you're either new to this or just new to the system, We've gone ahead and put a mark smack dab in the middle of the track, and that's kind of a great place to start if you're unsure, and then from there you can kind of decide if you want more lift or less lift, if you like more front foot pressure or you like to ride further back on the board. All those little things will affect on where you place it. So we're going to go ahead and adjust this just to the middle. That happens to be where I like to ride it. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure the screws are still loose here. So I'm going to tilt the mast back this way if I want to slide the plate this way. It's just opposite. Okay, just like that. And I'll go ahead and tighten everything down. And you want to go ahead and when you are tightening these guys is don't just crank down on one screw. You want to kind of alternate and do them a little bit at a time until they're all nice and tight, just to apply even pressure all the way down. So now that we're mounted up to the board, we're going to go ahead and mount up the fuselage and the front and the back wings. And this part is of course universal to whether you are mounting to the double agent board or the crossbeam foil board like we just did. So to go ahead and get the fuselage mounted to the mast, we want to go ahead and use the 40mm screws in this nicely labeled package and dab a small amount of grease here. I prefer to put the grease into the inserts here as opposed to on the screw. And again, just a dab in each hole. There's only one way to get this guy on. It only goes on one way, so you can't really mess that up. So we'll go ahead and mount that up. Make sure it sits in place correctly. Front of the fuselage, front of the mast. And we'll go ahead and put these screws in there. And again, you want to tighten them down semi-evenly so we're not just cranking on one side. And this helps prevent things from cross-threading as well, which is never a good thing. Okay, as that's getting snug, I'm going to go ahead and tighten down the other side. So again, so it's fairly even. And just a little bit at a time like that. And then just one final crank on both. Good to go. Let's get the wings on. Since the front and the back wings are going on pretty much one right after the other, it doesn't really matter which order you do them in. But I'm going to go ahead and again dab a little bit of grease just right into the threads. And while we're at it, I'm going to do the front as well. Do them all at the same time. All right, so I'm going to start with the rear wing. Again, it doesn't matter what order you do them in. You just want to make sure you use the appropriate hardware. The rear wing takes these super tiny 14mm screws. They're all labeled, so you should have no issues confusing them. Go ahead and remove the rear wing. This also only goes on one way, and you know it's the correct way because you should be able to see the countersink in the hole. It doesn't go on, the screws obviously don't go on like that. Put them in sticker side, countersink, they should drop right in and be fairly flush to just below the surface. This little bump in the wing matches this little notch here in the fuselage, okay? So it goes in this direction. Again, I'm just gonna go ahead and start that guy and then drop the other one. And again, it's the alternating so we don't actually cross thread and everything goes on nice and evenly. So once that's done, I don't need these stickers anymore. That's only gonna slow me down on the water. That'll probably come off once we start riding, so no need to litter up the ocean. Let's get rid of those stickers, dump those in the trash. All right, so front wing is next. Go ahead and remove the covers. And same exact situation here. The stickers are on the side that the screws actually go into. And as you can see, they're labeled so that you can't really mess it up. There is two different lengths. The longer screw, which is the 27mm, actually goes into the front of the wing, and then the 25 will obviously go in the rear. So I have one bag here labeled 27mm screw. There's only one of those. And then there's a bag of 5 25mm screws. And the reason there's 5 is one of these screws is for the rear attachment point of the front wing, and the other 4 will go into the double agent, obviously, as noted right here in my handy dandy installation guide. All right, so for the front wing, same exact as the back wing. I'm gonna drop a screw in there. This is the 25mm screw, so it goes in the back. Line it up. And then I'll just hand start it like that to make sure there's no issues and make sure there's no unusual resistance. 27mm screw will go on the front, and then I'll just use the Allen key here. And again, we're just alternating until we get nice and tight. And you want to make sure with any of these Allen screws is that the key is all the way engaged to the bottom before you start turning, otherwise you'll strip out the head. That goes in the trash, and you're ready to ride. All right, so that was it. Pretty quick and painless, as you can see. Assembly's fairly easy, and the disassembly after sessions is even quicker because you don't have to break the whole thing down each and every time. But I would advise you guys to get in the habit of taking everything apart periodically. Don't forget to use that anti-seize grease and mess around with that the guide on the board. It really does make a difference to really kind of feel where your personal preference is and to kind of maximize the sweet spot in your riding enjoyment, really. That's pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to email us at support@cabrinhakites.com. And please go ahead and check out the rest of our 2019 range at CabrinhaKites.com. Hope to see you guys on the water. Aloha.